Hello, welcome to our live talk at IndoGerman Films. A warm welcome to Maja Meiners, young filmmaker from Germany, with a focus on social issues in India. Hi, Maja.
Hello, everyone.
And please give a warm welcome also to Anjana Singh, chairwoman of Amicale e.V. from Berlin. Hi, Anjana.
Namaste, Stefan. Namaste, Maja. Namaste, Raman.
Hi.
And please give a warm welcome to our co-host from Radio Apna Frankfurt. This is Raman Deepjawal. Hello, Raman.
Hi, Stefan. Hi, Anjana ji. Hi, Maja.
Hello.
Thanks for inviting me to the talk here today. Really happy to be part of this. Thank you. Maja, first of all, thanks a lot for taking out the time. And let's talk a little bit about what you have done till now. I mean, Maja Meiners studied her bachelor's in comparative literature studies and English in Bochum. And you did your master's in modern Indian studies at Georg-August-University in Göttingen.
Yes.
Now, your ethnographic film about the Casteless Collective is in a way the videographic version of your master field study. Breaking Barriers, the Casteless Collective. It's a brand new documentary film about a protest band from Chennai. Now, Maja, how did this project happen? And would you like to share some details on this with us?
Yeah, so it's actually connected to my master field studies. As I studied modern Indian studies, I wanted to do something on arts of resistance and how people emancipate themselves with art. And I looked in theater and so on. And finally, through my professor, I got in touch with this band and found that they are actually a perfect field for that. And yeah, in my master's, I did a lot on documentary filming aside to my studies. And I also wanted to do the field study, but I really wanted to do a film and a proper good film. So that's how it came into being. And I met the band when I was doing my semester abroad in Pune, and then met them and asked them, and they were cool with me doing it. So that's how it came about, actually.
Yeah, very nice. I mean, I saw the documentary, and first of all, congratulations on making such a great and a soulful documentary, I would call it. Yeah. I mean, discrimination, something which is not acceptable by anyone, but still is a part of everyone's life in one way or the other, right? I mean, while shooting this movie, what is the key point about discrimination that you learned? And I mean, what is the core factor behind discrimination, and why do we do it at all? I mean, we all do it, right?
Yeah, well, that's a difficult question. I mean, like, differences between social groups are there in every society, I guess. And then, difficult question. Yeah, I think like something is strange and you know, like something is different to you, something is different to your social group. And then there's always, I think what's a human thing also is like, there are some people who have more power, and this thing of dominating somebody and somebody's in a weaker position and something that's, I think, unfortunately, maybe a human thing. And
exactly. I mean, you see it in the movie as well. It comes from the caste system discrimination, but not just about that. I mean, there are other parts of discrimination which are also touched in there, right? So it adds a lot of perspective into the movie, isn't it?
Yeah. So the Casteless Collective say they do a lot on caste discrimination, but actually it's about inequality in general. So they sing about inequality, which is they also on gender issues, LGBTQI issues. But they, like, as one of the protagonists, Adibu says, like, caste discrimination is the biggest kind of inequality in India, and that's why they have a focus on that. But they deal with all kinds of inequalities.
Yeah. No, it's a very well made documentary. So again, congratulations from my side on that. With this, I give it back to Stefan.
Yeah, it's really, I liked the film a lot too. And I was very fascinated about the music. There's so much power, you know, they have, and it's okay. I think every Indian has music in his blood, so that's not so far that you can imagine that they. But it's also very professional, because seeing that they come from all castes and are more driven by that social issue is for me it was really a lot of how can I say, a lot of also positive energy in it, and to watch that. But I would like to give it to Anjana, because regarding the caste system, I'm also very interested to hear from her, because she is from India and also knows all about this issue. So I would like to give the next question to Anjana ji.
Bevor wir über Kastenwesen reden, sollten wir kurz mal gucken, wie lange hat diese Beobachtung gedauert? Wie lange hat Maja beobachtet überhaupt? Und wie kam das, dass sie speziell diese Gruppe gefunden hat oder getroffen hat?
Yeah. So just to convert that in or translate that in English. So before we go into the details of caste system, the question to you, Maja, from Anjana ji is, how long did you observe this group? And how long did it take for you to kind of prepare by observing their traits there? Yeah.
So in total, I was there for 2.5 months, actually. I did read a lot on them and prepared my field study before that. A few months, but in total I was there 2.5 months, and yeah, I reached there actually shortly before they had a huge gig, which is also a big part of the film. Actually, it was the release of their first music album, and it was like a huge event. Yeah, and around that were a lot of rehearsals, and once I had a lot of live music footage of them, I met most of the protagonists I met in person, like each and everyone, and then I had a lot of interviews with people who were around the band, and who put the topic and what they're doing into perspective. So that also took me a month or something, and yeah, but time was flew actually pretty quickly.
Kann ich noch weiter Fragen stellen?
Ja, klar. Go ahead.
Nee, wir haben ja Reihenfolge, daher muss man...
Alles gut.
Ja.
Du sagtest, du warst 2,5 Monate dort, und wie ist das? Würdest du sagen, dass man in 2,5 Monaten, kann man sich so eröffnen, dass man über diese ganz private Sachen spricht? Wie lange hast du da gebraucht, dass du überhaupt die Unterschiede gesehen hast? Ich meine, als Filmemacherin, du musst ja Nuancen verstehen, überhaupt, dass du dann im Kamera haben kannst. Wie hast du das geschafft, so schön in Kameras zu haben, zu bekommen?
Yeah. So I mean, to convert that in English, 2.5 months, you mentioned that you were there and you interacted with them. I mean, 2.5 months, it's a short period of time to actually make somebody comfortable to open up these personal feelings in front of you. So how did you manage to basically get them open up to you within such short time, and also capture it so beautifully in the movie that you have made? How did you manage that?
I think one thing is also, I was in India, I studied this modern Indian studies, so I had a lot of background on caste, caste related issues and so on. So that was all in the back of my mind already, and I've already been in Pune and so on. So in terms of understanding India and caste system a little, that had taken place before. And then in order to get contact to the band, I don't know, they are very welcoming. I think first time I came there into their rehearsal room, people were a little shy, and they're there's this new German giant of a person. I'm pretty tall, I'm 1.80 m, and yeah, so, but then very easy, very quickly they actually opened up, and they were involving me, and I was a little freakish, not freakish, but ein kleines Maskottchen für die Band, and I could always like accompany them. And I don't like first. I think it was also because it was so exciting that this gig was coming. So I was coming into the band at a point in time where people were excited for this one gig. So like experiencing that together, and it was New Year's actually. So having this experience together was a good thing for us to get closer. And then the second thing that we did is us going on a small tour. They had a gig in Kerala, which is the neighboring state. And we had a sleepover there, and we went together as a family on the train. So after we did this travel to Kerala, I felt much more involved and taken in. So I think these things together made me get close. But of course, there was a language barrier. So a lot of the band members only speak Tamil, which is the language that you speak in South India. And that was a bit of an issue, because even though I felt like a human connection, but when I was, for example, with Gautam in one room, we couldn't speak much. And that was actually, when I realized I was like, oh, damn it. Like, I'm going to miss a lot that I could have actually got if I spoke the language properly.
Yeah, actually, that would be my next question. So that what was I realized. So how did it work out then? Because you asked your question in English, so they understand English. Some of them, or most of them, understand English, but some of them don't speak English, correct? So,
yeah.
They only speak Tamil, and that is. So how did you do there? Was the translator with you, or did you do the translation after it, or how did it work out then?
Yeah, so a lot of interviews I also did with the people who speak English, like Tenma, the band leader, I did in English, Adivu, the lyricist, and a lot of people around. But those people, and a lot of people interviews are in Tamil. As I didn't have like so much budget, I realized that thing that when I went to Muttus, to Dharanis, and so on to each place where I went, I took one friend. Like one time Manu came, and for him it was like having a tea and something, and then they helped me. I had the camera with me, and they helped me ask the question. And in the beginning, I also made them also translate for me, but that took a lot of time, and I didn't want to take too much time from them. So I just trusted that he's asking the question, and I trust that the person gives a good answer. And then when I was back and I had this footage, and I thought roundabout, okay, this is what they say. When I was back in Göttingen, then where I lived back then, where I studied my master, I had Prakash. He studied with me, and he helped me translate, and I paid him for that also. Yeah, and then we translated afterwards. But for the interviews, I always had for each one somebody else. Like one time I also met this one, he was also doing his doctor, his
master's thesis also, or doctor thesis, or PhD.
PhD, and he was actually very interested in the topic, and I asked him, yeah, who are you most interested in? And he is very interested in Isaivani, in her role in the band. So for him, it was also a benefit to join me. And he is from Tamil Nadu, from Chennai actually. So then he joined me for that interview. So I tried to make it a well-balanced experience for the person who helped me and me myself also. Yeah.
No, that's really great. So where did the funds come from? So is it all from your own pocket, or how did it work?
No, I got at Uni Göttingen, where I studied, we have a scholarship, which is actually a really cool thing. It's called Kreativität im Studium, or Creativity in Studies, and you can actually apply for creative projects connected to the university. And I applied for that. So you also have to give a financial plan. But when I was doing the financial listing, I wasn't thinking of these costs of translation, which was, I don't know, doing that for the first time, you just don't think about that too much. But yeah, all my rent, all my flight, the camera equipment, and so on, they took, and that was me being very lucky actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Just one thing, what I would like to add here is, I mean, after watching the movie, even if the language barrier is there, but you can see that you are part of the team there and having fun with them. So that makes it really interesting, that bond between you as a director and them as a team, it really came out very well. So yeah, it was really a pleasure to watch that movie. Yeah. Stefan.
Yeah, I would like to give to Angela because she's. I feel that she has the next question in her head and can't wait.
Nein, du weißt, dieses Thema interessiert mich, weil ich es aus beiden Perspektiven sehe.
Ja.
Und da kommen wir dazu. Maja, du hast gesagt, dass du schon Vorwissen hattest. Und ich weiß sehr häufig, die Menschen, die Vorwissen haben, sie haben auch sie haben andere Art von Interesse. Warum hast du nicht über ein positives Thema einen Film gemacht? Warum sollte das Kastenwesen sein? Und selbst innerhalb dieser Thema gibt es auch positive Beispiele.
Yeah. So the question is that within the caste system, so when you are making a movie on the topic, why didn't you choose a positive topic? I mean, caste system or discrimination, it is seen in general as a negative topic. And then within this topic as well, the things that you have discussed, they are kind of negative topic there. So why this and why not the other aspect of it?
Because I think it's very important to put a focus on these issues. And it is also something I focused on in my master studies. So in my studies, we could focus on politics and economics and social issues. And I basically did that in my studies. And I always had an interest in the caste system because I just find it interesting how social inequalities actually happen and why they happen and so on. So yeah, I think that is why I chose it. And I think yeah, it's something that we have to actually realize and understand better, because I think caste is so special to India that like people from abroad kind of think it's an abstract thing. It's something that it's only referring to India, and we can't actually realize why that is. But when I showed the film, like one person from my, I also play improvisation theater, and one person of that group, he actually doesn't have much to do with India, but he's a social worker, and he was like, well, when I was watching that and when I was listening to these interviews, I realized there's so much in comparison to actually issues we have in Germany also, and that discrimination in all countries actually have got something in common, and that it's actually something you can relate to, even though it's India and it's caste and so on. So
genau, das wäre meine nächste Frage gewesen. Ich sehe in Deutschland auch ein Kastenwesen, nur mit anderen Namen. Es wird nicht Kasten genannt, Kastenwesen, aber es ist dasselbe, wenn ich in Berlin bin und Marzahn anders behandle als Zehlendorf. Für mich ist dasselbe. Was sagst du dazu?
So the question is that in Germany also there is kind of a caste discrimination, but it is not called caste discrimination. It is actually happening under different perspective. For example, when in Berlin, some regions of Berlin are considered different to the other regions in Berlin. So do you see that also kind of a discrimination?
Yeah. So for me, I didn't get my head around this yet properly, but because I think it's very difficult to answer. But we in Germany have discrimination definitely also. I don't know whether it's caste. I think in Germany it's rather class-based and education-based also. I think a lot on where you stand in society has something to do in what education you have, and that is, of course, always like comes from in what kind of a family you grew up, whether you have somebody in the family who also went to university. If not, your ambition to also go to university is, you don't think of it, you'd rather do an Ausbildung or a traineeship and so on. So I guess like this, there is a split in society between like what we call yeah, it's very difficult. But what we call Aussies, for example, like people who just don't have so much education and therefore also have like different circles. And there is something where you'd be like, okay, we don't hang out together. Like that's something also somebody in the documentary, we simply just don't hang out together. And I can't really say why, but it's also a different kind of social group, a different kind of caste or something. And I see that clearly, yeah.
Meinst du dann, du hast ja auch vorhin gesagt, Bildung. Und ich sage das, wenn wir, egal aus welchen Kasten, wenn wir Kinder selbe Bildung ermöglichen, es geht nicht um Quotenregelung, Quoten ist stigmatisiert, nicht die Quotenregelung, sondern von Anfang an dieselbe Chancen zu geben. Und durch Bildung erreichen wir irgendwann mal irgendwo Gleichgewicht.
Yeah.
So
okay, yeah, you.
Yeah. So the question is, I mean, you mentioned education earlier in your previous answer. And do you think that if every kid without any discrimination is given the same opportunity to education, with this, can we really reach a society where we will eventually have no discrimination?
Yeah, so for this education thing, I also want to add, because I feel, I mean, with caste, it's special because even though you're like super educated, in India, it's you'd still be considered from that caste and you'd still be considered lower and so on. Or like people who are like very discriminated with caste, they'd still see that in you, that you're a Dalit, even though you're like much cleverer than this person is. And I feel in Germany, if you were like educated, this thing of being lower or something that kind of disappears, right? Like I have the feeling that once you are speaking on one, but I also don't have such a clue, but I feel like it's once you've got this grade of education, you are on one level, and then it doesn't matter whether your parents have been poor and you got they got Hartz IV or whatever. And yeah, I don't know whether I could answer that question concerning.
Maybe this is because when I discussed this with Anjana before preparing for this talk, we discussed one point, and it was like if you marry if I as a man marry a woman in India, you know, I would marry also her family, you know, and so marrying in Germany. Okay, I don't know if the family is so important. I'm not saying it's unimportant. It's always important, yeah. But even in Germany, but I think there is a little difference. Don't you think so, Anjana, or also Maja?
Ja, ich würde mal sagen, das ist so. Du heiratest komplette Familie und sehr häufig, wenn du gebildet bist, ich kann aus meinen privaten Kreisen sagen, meine naheste Person, der hat sich mit einem Dalit geheiratet. Ich komme aus einem höheren Kasten. Und am Anfang, das hätte komplette Familie zerstört, beziehungsweise Zusammenhalt zerstört. Aber inzwischen, sie haben das akzeptiert. Am Anfang wollten sie nicht mal wissen, was der Junge macht. Und der Junge ist genauso gebildet wie das Mädchen. Und heute ist er komplett angenommen und komplett genauso wie in der Familie wie jede andere Person. Und dann sieht man doch, dass es Bildung und Bildung kann was erreichen.
Ja.
Ja. Meine Verständnis hier ist, dass Bildung kann auf jeden Fall helfen. Aber weil ich aus Indien komme, ich habe auch gesehen, ja, manchmal die Sachen sind auch zum Beispiel mit dem Namen verbunden, ja, wie der Name genannt ist oder wie
du musst
so
auch Englisch reden.
Okay, Raman, I know also we have to translate what Anjana just said. So at least the most part of it.
Exactly. So, sorry, what Anjana ji mentioned was that she has had an experience in India where in her private personal life, somebody who is very close to her, a relative to that, the lady was actually married to a person who was coming from a lower caste, and initially there was a complete resistance from the family, even trying to know that person. And slowly afterwards, over a period of time, when they came to know that the person is equally educated as the woman is, they actually accepted him as part of the family. And now that the discrimination or that differentiation has gone away, and he's accepted as part of the family. So here there is an example which shows that education can actually build those bridges between the sides. Do you agree with that, Maya?
Yeah, I think in some, I mean, there's differences in the families. Like some are very open-minded, and I think for them it would work. But I guess there are a lot of families in India, for example, who would then still have difficulties. I guess that family is maybe a very open-minded, modern kind of family, and yeah, I guess some very super traditional families in India would have an issue still. But are we talking about Germany still, or about India?
About
Both.
India.
So this particular question was about India.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
maybe,
please
maybe
go ahead,
as
Maya.
per generations, like things sometimes also change as per generations. Maybe next generation will be a little more like less traditional, more open than the previous. Yeah, difficult to answer. Like.
Yeah, I mean, what I personally believe there is, it's also the technology and the information that people are getting. The world is more opening now. Yeah, when you compare 20 years back, we were still into the same community, and you say a person is known by the company he keeps. So you are into a certain company and you want to be part of that group. You don't want to go outside of that, even if you think differently, because then you will be put out of that group. So I think somewhere with this things opening up, such things will go away eventually. But yes, it's a long way where we are. If you allow me to take the next question, because it's about what is happening today. I mean, today we have a worldwide revolution under the slogan Black Lives Matter. And this is also a form of protest against discrimination. And at this time, when I saw your documentary, I was like, using music as a tool. Wow. I mean, to raise your concern, to raise your voice, and to voice out your opinion, I would say. This is a completely another form of presenting or protesting, I would call it. So, but had I not seen this documentary, I would not have been aware of this. So why do you think such form of protests do not get the limelight that they deserve?
What do you mean with limelight?
I mean, because if I would not have seen this particular documentary, I would never have been aware of such a form of protest that is happening in southern part of India. So it has not come into a daylight, so to say, where everybody could openly come and see it. Your documentary is now bringing it to light, but there might be a lot of such stories that are there in India and across the world, but they are not coming into limelight. They are not being recognized by the people. What is the key factor behind that?
Yeah, I don't know how much this kind of music goes out of India, but I think that music in general is a good medium. That's what I also thought, like when I thought of finding theater, for example, as a medium, I feel it's not so widely consumed in India. So it's not like really a Sprachrohr to reach loads of people. And I feel I've got the feeling that cinema is very, very much reaching people, and music also. So I guess music as a medium is reaching out. And that's also what Paranjit, who initiated the band, had in mind, that he wants to get this issue into mainstream, and he wants to get this traditional music, which these guys are doing, is Gaana. It's like a folk music form which comes from the slums, which is practiced by Dalits, and which used to be funeral music. It was stigmatized as funeral music, but it's an art form. And he wanted this to actually get into mainstream and get into limelight. Maybe is that the into limelight, and that's why he combined it with things which are like positively connotated, like Western music. Like they mix Gaana, which is a stigmatized folk music form, with modern music forms of rock and hip hop, which are positively connotated and modern and cool, and mingle that all together and therefore made it maybe more accessible for people who would be like, oh no, that's the music that these people in the slums do, it's not so interesting. But he made it and brought it up and onto something which is easier to consume by the mainstream. And this kind of music, which is exciting and like upbeaty, they bring together with very powerful lyrics. That's something that the Casteless Collective does also. Like when my professor, he actually put me on this band because I was asking like, I can't find artists, like what am I gonna do? And then I was sitting with him and his cousin and a friend of them together when I was visiting them in Chennai. And he was like, well, Maja, do you know what? We've just been on this amazing concert. And I was just, by the degree their eyes were shining when they were talking about it and how they were actually emotionally moved by this. I understood, well, this must have been like super special. So my professor, he was emotionally touched so much by what these guys were saying up front on the stage that I understood, okay, that's not just musically interesting, but also by the means what they say, it's very special and new. So
but did I get it right that from the film I had the feeling that they have a kind of success, or they are quite successful, or but can you quantify this somehow? So because we do not see in the movie how many people are in the audience and so on. So can you give us some numbers or figures?
That's also something which was very hard for me to evaluate, because for me they were standing on this huge stage and they looked like super known, and I think for a band like them, coming from like a lot of them having this Dalit background and so on, I think they are pretty known. But as India is big, and as they are on television in India in some places, but India has loads of television channels. I think they are super known in the Dalit scene and the anti-caste scene, and I think they also get international, like a bit of international attention. But like it's not as if loads and loads of people in India know they are existing. Political, like people who are like anti-caste, politically interested, they know all over India. Like there are people in Delhi who are like, oh, these guys and so on. But yeah, they're still growing. And I think it's like, I was once told by Paul Jacob, he's a folk music producer, and he says it takes time in India for somebody to get big and get the attention. So ja.
Aber ist das nicht für jeden das so, egal aus welcher Kaste man kommt?
So is it not same for anyone who comes from any caste?
Not sure, because like I was told that they have difficulties, for example, to get gigs, for example, in malls. In India, you have these gigs in malls very often, and they wouldn't be called for these kind of gigs because what they do is too politically anstrengend, like it's not like easy
politically challenging.
Yeah, politically challenging. It's not like, oh, you stand there and listen. It's like soft music going on. It's challenging in terms of what they say, and people might be offended. And
ja, aber das kann es auch singen und es würde genau dieselbe Probleme haben. Egal wer das ist, es hat nichts mit dem Kasten zu tun in dem Moment. Es könnte genauso Probleme haben. Darüber rede, über diese soziale Ungleichheit. Egal was.
So what Anjana ji is saying is like, it is not that they come from a lower caste and that is why they face these problems. Any person who will go and bring up such challenging topics in front of the audience will get actually same kind of a response. So it's more which is linked to the topic and not to the person who is basically speaking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a difficult topic, like for everyone to speak it, but in order to get into a position musically and actually have the chance of lots of people listening what you actually have to say, I'd say, like I was also once told, it would have been super difficult for these people, this guys and one girl coming from slum area to actually get on a stage of this knownness kind of and actually reach people. They would have done their funeral music and their Gaana in their area and would have been kind of locally known maybe, but to get on such stage, it would have been difficult because if you are like a more of from a better standing and you're a musician and so on, it's much easier for you to get into circles where there are like big music like concerts happening. I think that is like that.
Könnte
Ja.
auch daran liegen, dass es im Süden, ich bin mir noch nicht ganz sicher, aber im Süden ist das viel mehr Tempelmusik mit Kastenwesen verbunden war. Vielleicht liegt das daran?
Does it actually relates to the fact that in the southern part of India, the music is related to a lot of temples and then it is eventually related to caste system. So can it be that the story comes from southern part of India and it is linked to this fact here?
That's something my professor could answer much better. I actually can't answer this question properly, to be honest.
What I can reveal is at this moment that we will screen your film at our IndoGerman Filmweek, and we will also invite you to come to Berlin. And hopefully either we will have also your professor in person, or then we will have a Zoom conference with him. So there will be a second chance to discuss this also.
Yeah.
But back to Anjana, we don't need to close. I just want to bring that in the middle. Anjana.
I have one more interesting thing maybe to say also, like what's special about the band is that they have this Par Ranjit. He is a famous director from Chennai, and he's a very he's an anti-caste activist, but does commercial cinema, which is consumed very widely. He's also from the Dalit caste actually, and he got himself into a position where he's a lot of people know him, so to say, and he also has the money, and he had this idea of bringing like Dalit art into mainstream thing. So he was a support and actually supported the band financially. That's also something. They got this financial support to actually do the music which they do. He got Tenma into it, and he trained them and so on, and put it all together. And that's a very driving factor, that they have the support by this person who is very known. Just maybe also to explain how they got into this position of now making music like this. They had the talent, but there was somebody who actually dragged them all together and brought them in line to do this.
Wo ich auch sehr viel Parallelen sehe, ist sorry, es ist Telefragen eins nach dem anderen.
That's okay, that's absolutely.
Go ahead.
It's an interview, right? Like
it's a talk.
A talk.
Ich habe viele Parallelen gesehen zur deutschen Gesellschaft auch, immer wieder mal. Und ich frage mal, der Gautam, der Protagonist, der sagt irgendwo im Film, wenn er in Trauerzeremonie das singt, Menschen achten, ist eher sie missachten oder schlagen oder. Und er ist auf der Bühne in einem Anzug und er sieht andere Reaktionen. Was sagt dir? Ich meine, für mich ist das, Kleider machen Leute, was überall auf der Welt ist. Das hat doch nicht unbedingt mit Kastenwesen zu tun, sondern mit sozialen Schicht zu tun, wer seine Musik draußen im Konzertform anguckt, im Anzug. Und da ist das sein Dalit-Sein ist im Hintergrund gerückt.
Yeah. So the question is coming more from the fact that there is a character in the documentary, his name is Gautam. And what he mentions is that he, being a Dalit, he sings the Gaana kind of songs at places where there are like mortuaries and people have died. And there he is treated in a certain way. But when the same person wears a suit and he's stepping on a stage, the kind of reaction he gets from the people is entirely different. So is there a kind of a parallel thing that we can draw here around the world looking, that Actually, it's your dressing that makes the person and brings the reaction from the people instead of your character or your quality there. Is that a fact for you as well, Maya?
Yeah, I definitely think so. So they actually wear suits. They wear these blue suits, which is also a sign of, it's also connected to B.R. Ambedkar. He was also from the Dalit caste, but he became a lawyer and fought a lot for Indian rights. And it's kind of referring to this being also like he always wore a suit in order to say, no, I am actually wearing this formal thing, because Dalits were like back then they were supposed to not wear jewelry or like expensive things, because socially they were forbidden to just yeah. And I'm not sure, but I think like to wear something so formal or so like I wouldn't say wearing a suit would be a dignity giving thing, but in that sense it would have been understood like this. So they put them into the suits to actually give them this being, this energy kind of a thing. And I think wearing a suit in Germany actually would have a different effect. But I guess also, yeah, Kleider machen Leute, it has a bit of this effect, and also it was a good decision to put them into the suits, because my professor also said, he was like, whoa, and then there were these guys like coming on stage in these 3-piece suit, and it was just a very impressive sight, kind of.
Yeah. Andraji?
Yeah. Jetzt seid ihr auch dran.
Okay. I mean, after listening to what we have been discussing and what we have also seen as part of the movie, the key question that comes to my mind: can we as humans ever stop discriminating, or is it something which is built into our genes? And this will, for example, I mean, we talked about education can be something that brings out the difference. But if I remember the times where I did my engineering in India, we had different groups. I mean, all are studying the same course, all are in the same class, but there was an unsaid separating of groups where people from the lower caste, they are into their own group, and people, is it something which is kind of built into humans, and will it take its own sweet time to go away from this, or do you think this can never go away? What do you think, Maya?
Also a huge question. Yeah, it's like, if we concentrate on I think discrimination is probably it'll probably it's kind of I hope it's not a human thing, but I'm afraid it is a bit of a human thing. But that's something that my professor also said in the documentary, that it's like that this is very stubborn, like whatever we've learned and whatever we've learned through history is a very stubborn stuff, and it needs to slowly through generation needs to be worked against. And he said it'll probably take time, but yeah, like the lower caste has to actually stand up and fight for their issues and not stay calm, but actually come up into positions. And the people, the dominators, have to actually realize that they are dominating and look into it, because if that is not happening and they are staying in a position where they think I'm actually like everything's fine, there's no caste discrimination, then it's difficult to get out. It's very hard to answer this question, to be honest. Like, do you have an answer to it?
I mean, my perspective here is definitely education can be a tool to make it happen. But the point is, this has to happen very consistently. It has to happen over generations. And we as people, we have to realize somewhere that everybody is born as equal, and everybody should be given equal opportunity, and someone has to give away their superiority. I think that is where the challenge starts. When you start giving away something that you have as superior and you say, okay, I want to share it with someone else, this is, I think, where the key challenge lies. But if we all start working on it together, somewhere down the line we will see a difference happening. That's my personal opinion on that. With that, I give back to Stefan.
Ja. Angela?
Ja, ich denke, das kann ändern, wirklich ändern, wenn jeder Familie für sich in Kindererziehung von Anfang an achtet, dass wir keine böse Wörter für anderen Menschen benutzen. So wie wir haben im Hindi auch manchmal Schimpfwörter über Dalit. Man sagt einfach Chamar kahinga. Was ist Chamar? Chamar ist Harjan. Warum sagen wir? Die sind genauso wie du auch Menschen. Wenn wir diese Art Sprache nicht verwenden und darauf achten, dann wird es nicht mehr Bedeutung kriegen. Zum Beispiel meine Kinder wissen nicht, was ist das. Ja. Und wenn sie das nicht wissen, dann würden sie beide Menschen gleich behandeln, egal wer das ist. Und wenn das funktioniert und Bildung dazu kommt, dann könnte in 30 Jahren Gesellschaft anders sein.
Ja. So what Anjana ji is saying is that it is very important that every family brings the right values to their kids, that these discriminating factors are not taught to them. They are not part of our language. We do not use that words that are used for such discriminating factors. And we kind of start taking it away from our day-to-day life. And only then, over a period of time, these things will go away. So for example, I mean, kids who are born here in Germany, they do not understand the difference of all these things happening in India. And if this kind of knowledge is also given to kids around the world, I mean, then it will definitely start making a difference. It will take its own sweet time, but the change will come. So I hope I could summarize that well, Anjana ji.
I also think that it's important that everyone examines themselves. Like that discussion keeps being there, but everyone, even though I think I'm anti-racist and so on, but even though I also have to examine my discriminative mechanisms, because it's very unconscious. Yeah. And even though you think you're like anti-racist and so on, still look inside, and if everybody's kind of open to do that, I think that's a good basis.
Yeah, I think this is a good closing word now, because also we should spare some part of the discussion for our IndoGerman Filmweek. Actually, before we can see the film at IndoGerman Filmweek, which will be between 24th and 30th of September next month, it will be in London, correct, Maja? So there will be, so your movie Breaking Barriers, the Casteless collection, was also chosen by the London Indian Film Festival. Would you like to add something to that comment?
Yeah, it'll be screened there in, I think on the 19th or the 20th September. And I'll hopefully, if COVID is gnädig, I'll probably also go there for the screening. Yeah, and I'm very looking forward to it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, great. So, and but therefore you have to go to London, and everybody who wants to watch it there has to go to London. Everybody who can wait for the period of for the week of 24th to 30th of September, please come to Berlin to watch the film. Maja will be there. We will invite her to come here. And we will have a discussion in Berlin also about the film. I can't give a certain date so far because the programming has to happen next week. But then in the beginning of September, we will announce also the exact date of the screening of the film. And we are more than happy that you will come and present the film. And we are very excited about that because it's a great film. And as you can see, there's a lot to discuss about it, and we hope that will happen in Berlin too.
Yeah, thank you. I'm also super excited to come and screen it there. Like, it's a fun thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Then thank you all. Thank you, Maja, for giving us your time and for this fruitful discussion, which was really exciting. Thank you, Raman. Thank you, Angela. And then hope to see you next week when again we will see one film director who will present his film, because that's what we will do in the next weeks. We will each by week by week, we will present one film which will be screened at IndoGerman Filmweek. And yeah, and it was very cool to talk to you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well.
Thank you, Maja. Thank you very much for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.